If you clicked on this video, I know that you're lost. I know that you're lonely. And I know that you're fed up and that you can't tell anyone about it or express how you feel. And don't worry, because that used to be me. The 14-year-old who was getting bullied, who had so many insecurities, who was fed up with his life, who couldn't tell anyone about what he was expressing because he felt like no one fully understood him. And in the next 20, 30 minutes, I'm going to be explaining my entire story and how you can use my story as fuel for your vision, how you can push towards your goals and learn from the mistakes I made through my process. Just for a quick context into who I am, I just turned 20 years old. I run a company called Visionary Coaching where I help people to get into amazing shape and to work on their mindset. I just hosted Donegal's first ever large-scale self-growth event where I had 100 people in the room, incredible speakers who changed lives, and I'm completely obsessed with self-improvement. I've worked in 4 gyms across my personal training career and now I've fully transitioned towards online coaching. I recently moved to Marbella. I'm in an incredible podcast studio here in Marbella and it's just incredible, the best atmosphere and environment to be in. But I'm not telling you all of this to brag. I'm telling you all of this because I want you to understand what's possible for you and for your life. I'm telling you because 6 years ago, I had none of this. I had no confidence and all I had was a crowbar in a cold shed in Ireland and a vision to become better. So let me take you back to the beginning of my story. I grew up in a small town, Donegal Town it was called, off the west coast of Ireland. And it's the place where most people do the same thing every single day. The county has a big association with Gaelic. If you were a county player, you got all the praise in the local area. And if you played Gaelic, you were automatically like put on a pedestal. And I did try Gaelic, I will be honest about that, but I was so bad. I was that one kid who always got picked last for every single team. And when people ask me, and when people see me and see my physique to this day, the first question they ask is if I play Gaelic. And there's a part of me, every time that question comes up, that still wishes that I was good at the sport because I have such high respect for the players who are committing to that craft fully. It's really admirable. So growing up, I never had that boys culture. I never felt like I truly belonged. And this is where we get into the deeper stuff. When I was 14 years old, lockdown hit, and those were the toughest years of my life. I was playing PlayStation all day. I had no spark, I had no direction, and I had no clue what I was doing with my life, and I had severe insecurities. I want to be clear about one thing before we go any further into the deep stuff. I had an amazing upbringing, the most supportive parents ever, but it was school in particular where I struggled the most. You see, growing up, I did acting, musicals, and drama, and they were the places where I felt like I truly belonged. I tried the sports, I tried the Gaelic, but I was horrible, and I got bullied through that process for being so bad. And I remember particular moments in school where a coach would ask me, do I play Gaelic? Or a group of lads would be around the school table, the popular kids, and they'd be talking about football. And I always felt like I couldn't pitch in. I felt powerless. I felt small because I couldn't relate. At school, I felt physically weak within my own body. And then when I hit puberty, my hair went curly, a natural process. But due to this, I was being called perm boy. I was being called gay boy. The typical insults you'll hear from a small Irish mindset. And when lockdown hit, the bullying got worse because it all transitioned to online. I was getting added to Snapchat group chats with over 20 lads, pinpointing every single insecurity I had. There used to be these wee cutouts in Snapchat. They'd cut out embarrassing moments from my TikTok or embarrassing moments from snaps that I've sent. And they would pop them into the group chats just to make fun of me. And I remember nights where I'd be in my room bawling, crying, almost every single night, feeling completely powerless, feeling like no one actually liked me because I always had that sense of wanting to belong, and lockdown made that worse. I felt isolated. One particular night I was doom scrolling on TikTok and I saw someone lifting weights and they had an amazing physique, and I thought to myself, I want to be like him. So naturally, I went out to the shed and I started to look for the heaviest thing that I could find. And I picked up this crowbar, which resembled something like a barbell. And I started to do a few reps. And at first I was thinking to myself, what am I doing here? But then I started to feel some blood flow. And I quickly became obsessed with that feeling because it was the first moment where I felt strong. The first moment where I genuinely said to myself, what if? What if I can become my vision? What if I can get strong? And I remember particularly setting up the camera because something within me knew that I was going to have an amazing transformation. And lo and behold, that transformation did happen. But before I left the shed, this was my first moment of visualization, which is heavily tied to my brand visionary coaching, where I close my eyes and I dream about the physique that I want. And there was this particular moment in school. Every single morning, I would be walking up this ramp on the way up to school. And it was one of the hardest things to do for me. Walking up a ramp, I know, is so simple, but I always thought that everyone around me would be looking down at me thinking, you know, who's this weirdo? What's he wearing today? I had so much insecurities within myself that I thought everyone was judging my every move. So I visualized myself walking up this ramp, but this time I'm walking up with confidence. I'm walking up with muscle, and people aren't looking at me to take the piss out of me anymore. They're now looking at me in awe. This then led to what I call my locked in era, where I started to learn everything I could about muscle growth, about building muscle, and all of that knowledge that I've learned has helped me use that to transform other people's lives. But when I was in that period of trying to understand why I was different, why I was getting bullied, I had a complete glow up, a complete transformation. And when I went back to school, I thought everything would change. And I've spoken about this story on a public stage in front of 100 people. But the part that I didn't mention was the bullying got worse. I had more insecurities than ever. Even though I had more confidence, the bullying just got worse because people started to look at me with jealousy. They didn't understand what I was doing. The insults got worse. Who does this guy think he is? Notions. The typical Irish mindset, crabs in a bucket. If one crab tries to leave the bucket, the other crabs will crawl him back down. So everyone has to be miserable. And I felt miserable every single day of school when the lads that were even older than me were shoving me in the corridor, calling me really offensive names. And that was so hard to take. And my first lesson from this time period for any young people watching, it's important to remember that the people who are trying to dim your light are just afraid of the darkness that they're living in. And I love that quote. In simple terms, anyone who is bullying you, who is giving you hate, who is trying to bring you down, is just so scared of the darkness that they're living in, so they want to take away your light. But it doesn't work like that, does it? Because if you have a positive mindset, your light will shine brighter than any of those people. And use me as an example, sitting here today, everything that I've accomplished as proof that even if you are going through a hard time, if you have a positive mindset and have a purpose, you can get through it too. So when I did have this transformation, lads who I thought were my friends started to become cold. They started to drift away from me. And there was no admiration. It was just sneering. It was jealousy. And I eventually built up the confidence to start posting on social media, which has ultimately led to me sharing my story today. But I remember at the start, there was fake accounts being made of me. There was fake Tinder accounts impersonating me. And, you know, girls were DMing me saying, you know, is this you? And I was like, no, I've never been on Tinder in my life before. There was multiple fake accounts made of me, whether that's impersonation or fan accounts, just trying to bring me down. And I'm going to tell you something that most people don't say on camera or don't say publicly. During those years, I got pulled into something online, something I couldn't tell anyone about. It was because someone was manipulating me. And I lived in fear for a very, very long time. And I had some of the darkest thoughts in that time period than I ever had before as a young 15-year-old. And the vision nearly ended before it even started. And I'm not going to go into the specifics because the specifics are very personal. But if you're a young lad watching this or a young lady and you know that something on your phone right now is making you feel sick every time your phone lights up, or maybe you've sent something that you shouldn't have, or a person has turned on you, or there's something that you're scared about, I need you to hear this. You're not the only one. It's way more common than you think. It's important to talk about how you feel. Reach out to a family member, reach out to a friend, tell the guards, because once you get it out of your system, things will change and you can have an action plan to help you get out of that scenario. On top of the bullying that I was receiving, the manipulation, the catfishing, everything that I was going through, there was an anonymous question app which I loved because I could answer gym-specific questions from people who were too scared to ask publicly. But this came with a lot of negativity. And if you have these apps like anonymous messages, Tell on Me, all those things, delete them, because it's a perfect vessel for bullies to give you hate and to try and bring you down, because they know that you'll see it, but you don't know who it is. And here's something I also want to express, because it's a trap that I fell into. I thought I couldn't block people who were giving me hate, because they would tell their friends and everyone would know that I blocked this person, and I was scared. But if someone is giving you a hard time and you know that you can't handle it, you know that it's really deteriorating your mental health and affecting you, just block them. And once I learned that it actually is that simple, you can click a button and block someone and they can't see your content and you can't see theirs. It really is like a weight lifted off your shoulders when you build up the courage to do that. So fuck what anyone else thinks, block them. It's prioritizing your peace, and that's more important than anything, especially as a young person. You've got to mind your head, you've got to look at your mental health. The same thing goes for a group chat that's toxic, that may be targeting you, or that's targeting other people that you're a part of. If you're in that group chat and you're seeing that happen and you're not standing up for that person or doing anything about it, then you're part of the problem. And I'll admit, I was part of that problem, especially through my younger years in school, first year to third year. There was a culture that if you were different, you would get bullied. If you had blue hair, you would get bullied. If you were into acting in musicals, in my example, you would get bullied, or you would get picked on, or the Irish term, taking the piss out of for. And I was a part of that cohort. You know, I didn't understand those people until TY. I actually got to know those people, and they're some of the coolest people that I've ever met. And I understood that they were just misunderstood. And I started to have a lot more empathy for those people and understood that they are way more cool than the popular kids at school. I want to talk about something which a lot of people don't say out loud, honestly, and especially for a lot of young Irish people watching right now. There is a culture in our country that tells you that ambition is not okay, that you can't go for your goals, that wanting more out of life makes you weird, that if you take yourself too seriously, you'll become a target. And I felt that every single day when I was trying to improve myself, whether that be within the gym, within self-improvement, within my mindset. I felt that every single day. You know these phrases probably better than most. Notions. And what does notions actually mean? It means that you had the audacity to do something that no one else thought was possible. That's what notions actually means. Who the fuck does he think he is? Would he ever just take a day off? Oh, did you see your man started a social media account? This would be interesting to see how that goes, with the element of doubt creeped into that also. On a night out in Ireland, at the table in the pub or the smoking area, everyone is talking about each other. Oh, what's she wearing? Oh, did you see your man start a social media? And just pure gossiping and chatting shit. Oh, that person, who does he think he is? He thinks he's class. Out here in Marbella, it's completely different. When you're talking to someone, you're talking about your business goals, your wins, how motivated you are for the future. And there's an environment that makes you feel uplifted and confident and powerful. And I'll use a pure example of this. When I announced that I was going to move to Marbella, the Irish mindset was, make sure you have something to fall back on. This is a very big, risky step in your career, and I understand how some of that is coming from love. But as soon as I landed here, it was the Uber driver who said this. He said, I cannot wait to see what you achieve in life, and I cannot wait to see what you do when you're here. Can you see the difference in mindset just from location, just from environment? So lesson 2 is going to be watch your environment. Be careful what you consume, because every single piece of information that you consume is slowly rewiring your brain. And that moves me on to the RAS, the reticular activating system. And the best way that I can describe this is, imagine that you decided you're going to buy a red Audi. And then suddenly overnight, you're going to start to see that red Audi absolutely everywhere. Now, it was always there, but your brain just wasn't in tune to it. So the same applies when you start thinking positively and you start manifesting your goals for the future. You'll start to attract the people, the opportunities, and the information that matches that vision. If you're always thinking negatively, talking shit about other people, always down in the dumps, always feeling miserable, always talking to yourself with negative phrases, you will start to attract the opportunities, the negative ones, the negative people, the toxic environments, and all the toxic information that's going to keep you stuck. So if you're coming from a small town in Ireland and you're watching this and you have to stop apologizing for wanting more out of life, and you've got to think about what's the cost if you don't take action on your goals. If you want to start a business, if you want to talk to that girl, if you want to join the gym, but you're too scared about what other people will think of you, what's the cost? Is it going another summer hating how you look? Is it going another year feeling lonely because you can't get a girlfriend? Is it going another year where your confidence is deteriorated and where you're broke because you can't escape the shitty job that you're in? That's the cost if you don't take action. And I'll tell you one thing from my experience. My first 3 years of coaching, I had 3 clients. I was charging €50 a month. And there was moments of self-doubt where I thought to myself, is this even worth it? I'm barely making any money and I can't see myself succeeding in this industry. And eventually my business has now 10 times that, making a good amount of money a month for my age. But it's because I didn't give up on myself. And yes, it may take a few years. It may take a long time of you showing up for yourself. But I promise you, you'll be so much happier when you're showing up for your own vision and working through all of those obstacles than staying the exact same. That's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. It just doesn't happen. You have to take action. Nothing changes if nothing's going to change. You've got to start today becoming the 2.0 version of you. Think about that person. Think about their habits. Think about their lifestyle, what they do on a day-to-day basis, and become that person today. You can't wait for permission. You can't wait until you feel ready. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is right now. So start creating the roadmap for your future. Ask yourself, what's the cost of me not taking action? Staying the exact same, hating how I look, being miserable for the rest of my life. That's not what you want, and I know it's not what you want. So that's lesson 3. Stop waiting to feel ready. Take action today. Lesson 4 is the landscaping era, and this is all about hard work. When I was 14 years old and I picked up the crowbar, I was already going out landscaping with my dad prior to that. I had 8 a.m. starts, the Snickers workwear, listening to podcasts when I was cutting the hedges. That was my first initial job, starting off as a 14-year-old, just working as hard as he could to earn a bit of money. And after the landscaping jobs, my body was so sore, but I honestly didn't care. I still showed up for the gym because I knew that that was mental fortitude. And I knew that the gym was the only place where I felt like I belonged. So that was helping me become my vision. Even on the days where I was tired and demotivated, I still showed up. And that's why I'm standing here today, sitting here today with confidence in how I look and how I feel, because I built the mental resistance when I was 14 years old. And every euro that I made from the landscaping went straight back into reinvestment for my vision. Protein powder, pre-workouts, gym clothes, and even gym equipment for my at-home gym setup. Everything was reinvested into the vision. And I still do that today at 20 years old, reinvesting in mentorships and education, booking this podcast studio, everything reinvested into helping me learn more and to become better and improve my skill set. The other thing I did in that era when I was 14 years old was reading. And it's something that not a lot of people do, but I'd highly recommend. I picked up a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it was the most influential book that I've ever read. It was incredible because it helped me grow the landscaping business. I started asking the clients questions about success, about their careers, about how they ended up where they are. And I made some really valuable connections as like a 16-year-old. I learned that human connection is more important than anything, and being a kind person who genuinely listens and genuinely cares will matter more than anything. And the way that I tracked that was the tip at the end of the day. When I did a hard day at work, if they gave me like a €50 tip, I knew that I did a good job at listening to them, understanding them, making a great first impression and also doing an incredible job. I also read the book Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, and it was an incredible book because it taught me that your mind gives up before your body does, because your mind holds everything. And it basically taught me that the most powerful tool that we have is your mind when it's rewired and when it's used correctly. It's the most powerful weapon that we all have access to. You just got to rewire it day by day. The next lesson is stay away from the things that aren't serving you, particularly alcohol, drugs, cheap dopamine. Because there was one particular night in TY, I was 15 years old, and if you're Irish, you know what TY night is, transition year night. You go out to like a forest or something like that, and everyone's just drinking. It's the night that everyone goes out drinking together, pretty much for the first time. Everyone was there. All the popular kids, all the lads I'd been trying to impress for years. But I sat there on my own with nobody to talk to because I didn't drink and I didn't want to, because my mum raised me so well and she says, don't take a drink until you're 18 years old. So I truly believed that that was the way it had to be. And I sat there lonely. I sat there with no one to talk to, a little bit demotivated, a little bit fed up. And I called my mum and she dropped me to the gym at 11 p.m. I had to ring my boss that I was working for at the time to see if it's okay to head to the gym at that time. And I had an incredible session, but it was a moment in my life where I understood that these people aren't my real friends. These people aren't actually supportive, because I was sitting there and I knew that they were chatting about me and I knew that I was in a negative environment and I felt that. So I had to escape that because I knew that those people, what they were doing wasn't actually serving me. So sorry for the change of scenery. My camera had cut out, but I want to continue this talk. My next lesson is going to be about the law of attraction. And a lot of you guys think this is some airy-fairy woo-woo nonsense, but hear me out. You have two voices in your brain and you get to decide which voice you listen to. There's the higher self and there's the inner chatterbox. And the inner chatterbox is your inner voice that tells you that you're not good enough, that you're weak, and that you can't do it. And your body physically responds to what is inputted in here. So if you're always telling yourself that you're weak, that you can't handle it, and you're not good enough, that was me when I was 14 years old, with zero confidence, with zero energy. I couldn't bring myself to have the confidence to stand up for myself even when I was getting bullied in school. On the other hand, there's the inner hype man, I like to call it, or the higher self. This is the voice that tells you that you can do it. The power terminology that proves that you're capable of handling anything. And here's the thing, whatever voice you decide to listen to, the universe responds to that. If you wake up and decide that you're going to complain first thing in the morning that you have work, that you have school, or that something is going wrong, then the universe says, he wants to be angry today, he wants to be upset, let's roll with it. But if you wake up and try to look for the things that make you grateful and start your day off with a positive frequency, that's when you'll genuinely see so much success within the day. Something I like to do with my clients is helping them understand the 2.0 version of themselves. What do they look like in the future? How do they feel? How do they show up for themselves? What's their daily routine? What's their healthy habits? And if you really want to become that person, you have to change your current identity. Because your current reality, how you're currently living, you as a whole, is built up of your past identity, the actions that you took, the habits you had, all of the things that shaped you into who you are today. So if you really want to change, the only way to change is by changing your identity first. That comes with action. Thinking about the 2.0 version of yourself. Mark right now, what would he do? The Mark who's confident, successful, a provider, in the best shape of his life, nervous system controlled. What would he do in this situation? Would he freak out? Would he think about the negative? Would he talk to himself negatively and think it's all doom and gloom? Or would he understand that he can handle it, create a good strategy and a good plan to get it fixed and go from there? That's a one real life scenario. It's all good and well hearing me talk about what it takes to be successful and how you can improve your life. But the most important thing that I learned through my journey is patience is the ultimate sacrifice. And if you have patience, I promise you it will work out. Like my coaching career, my first few years coaching, I had 3 clients and then it scaled. With my social media, I had probably 500 followers for the longest time. Then I had one viral video and that boosted my page even further. It got me on the map. The visionary event, I had to prep 6 months to make that possible. It wasn't an idea sprung out of nowhere. And anything that you go to do in life, if you have patience and consistency, that is how you'll win. I know that you've got this. I know that you're capable of greatness, and I'd love to be involved in your journey. It's my mission to bring as many like-minded young people together as possible who are into entrepreneurship, who are starting businesses, who are into their mindset, and create a community that's stronger than anyone's ever seen before, particularly in Ireland, because that's where I'm from. That's where I feel like people need the community aspect the most. So keep an eye on the page. I've launched the Visionary Circle. It's a community where we post motivation, gym tips, all that good stuff. But I'm expanding that to the Visionary events, going bigger and better. So stay tuned. It is going to be incredible. Thank you so much for watching this far. I know that you're capable of doing anything that you put your mind to. Become your vision. Starting today, act as the 2.0 version of you who has already made it. And I promise you, you'll see amazing results. Thank you.